Hello, this is Music Tech Help Guy. Welcome to episode 24 of my Pro Tools 11 video tutorial series. In this episode, I'm going to show you guys how to correct drum timings with Beat Detective. And what Beat Detective is it's a function that can create trigger points in your waveform to detect where your transient heavy material is. And then you can go and chop up your whole recording into little pieces, quantize those little pieces to the grid, and then smooth out all the editing and fill the gaps in between those clips. Now, in a previous episode, I showed you how to work with multi-track drums like this with rhythmic mode and correcting timing that way. That's one way that you can do it, but generally using rhythmic mode for elastic with elastic audio can generate some not so nice sounding artifacts from stretching and compressing the waveform. That works okay if you have something that doesn't have a whole lot of mistakes in it, or is just barely off the grid, or is very simple. With a recording like this where the drums are a bit more complex, Beat Detective is going to work better because it doesn't create as much artifacting as elastic audio does. So just so you can hear what I've got going on here, it's just live drums. We got kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, tom 1, tom 2, a floor tom, a stereo pair of room mics, and a stereo pair of overheads, no hi-hat mic. So this is what the drums sound just by themselves. Now, just by themselves, they sound pretty good. They don't sound like they're really out of time, but as we get further into the song, you'll see the drummer gets a little bit behind the beat here and here. There's a lot of spots where he's behind and some spots where he's ahead. So we really want to correct those timings because we want the other instruments to be as close to the grid as possible. Generally, the way you do this is you fix the timing in the drums, and then you record everything to the drums. What I have, just to demonstrate how the drums are they sound okay, but they're not really tight, is I have a scratch guitar part up here that was actually put perfectly in time with elastic audio. And you'll be able to hear how the guitar and the drums aren't really super tight with each other. So it's not bad. It's just that, especially on the fills, you can hear how the drums are sort of drifting out of time with the guitar. So let me mute the guitar for now. The first thing we want to do is we want to put the drums in a group. If you haven't done so, I'll show you how. Or you don't know how to, I'll show you how. You just click on the top track of the drums, hold Shift, click on the bottom track of the drums, hit Command G, and we'll just give this a name, call it drums. And now this allows us to edit all of the tracks at the same time, or all the drum tracks at the same time. The second thing you want to do is you want to use not elastic audio. We want to use Beat Detective in small chunks. We don't want to use it. We don't want to apply Beat Detective to the entire song. We want to work in smaller chunks so we can better see what we're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find like an open area like this where there's basically just crash cymbals, no other drums. Hit Tab to tab over to the next transient. And if you don't have Tab to transients on, make sure you turn that on. I'm going to hit B to separate. So we're going to time correct all of this first, and then move on to the rest of it. All right, so first I'm going to just double click on that selection. I'm going to go up to Event, Beat Detective, or you can hit Command 8 on your number pad. The first thing we need to do is we need to detect, first of all, actually we need to capture the selection and then detect the different trigger points, different transients. Now we're not actually going to go through all of the operations in Beat Detective, just the ones that pertain to this. So we're going to click on clip separation. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to this selection module here, and we're going to say capture selection. First, though, we need to know what the smallest note resolution in the song is, meaning what is the fastest individual drum beat or hit that is played. I can see with my grid at 16th note that pretty much 16th notes are the fastest thing that are happening all the way through. A way to sort of gauge this is to start something like an 8th note, and if you see things off of the grid, like here it's in between two grid lines, bump it up to the next one. And if you still see things like that, bump it up to the next one until you just see things that are essentially right on the grid. So that's what we have. Our fastest value is 16th notes. If you're working with something that has triplets in it too, you can hit the little 3 and it'll analyze for triplets. All right, double click on that, hit capture selection. I think it did it, there we go. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over to the detection area, and we are going to analyze this. What this does is it analyzes the whole selection for, whoops, I just screwed it up. Gotta keep it selected there. It's gonna analyze this for trigger points. And once this is done, we should be able to separate all these individual drum hits into little clips. So what we're gonna do now is pull up the sensitivity slider here, and you'll see these little purple lines start to pop up. These are our trigger points. So what we really want to do is we want to make sure that we don't have too many of them, because we may have some erroneous ones, but not too few of them. We want to make sure that pretty much all of our big hits, our kicks, our snares, our toms are taken care of, as well as some other things like the hi-hat and the overheads are taken care of. So I'm just going to scroll through here and make sure that everything looks like it's taken care of. We may still have to do some manual editing later just to clean it up, but this is like, this gets most of the work done for us. All right, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to separate these into individual clips. So you just hit separate. Now I've got a whole bunch of little clips. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to use the clip conform function to snap all these clips to their closest spot on the grid. If you accidentally deselected your selection, make sure that you, in grid mode, drag over the exact selection, like to the bar, to the beat that you had before, because if you don't, it won't properly snap these to the grid. So for me, I selected from basically beat 6 of bar 1 to beat 1 of measure 27. I have to make sure that I have that selected exactly. Then what you do is you hit conform, and you'll see all of your beats, your individual hits, snap to their closest spot on the grid. So we're going to listen to this. It's probably not going to sound that great. It's going to sound really choppy because there's gaps and spaces between all these clips right now, but we're going to fix that. So let's listen to this first, just to make sure everything sounds like it's in time. And one way you can guarantee it's in, or sort of double check that it's in time, is turn a click track on, and see if it sounds like it's perfectly on the grid. Okay, so everything's perfectly in time. Doesn't sound so great because there's gaps in between all of our notes. So let's go ahead and drag over all this again. What we're going to do is we're going to fill those gaps. Pro Tools has the ability to artificially fill and crossfade the material in between the gaps. So again, we'll go back up to our Beat Detective window. We're going to go to the Edit Smoothing function this time. We're going to go to Fill Gaps and Crossfade. And you can choose a crossfade length. I'm going to go with 5 milliseconds. That's just fine. And then you hit Smooth. And what it does is it fills in those gaps and crossfades. What I recommend you do is listen to it first and then consolidate it. I'm going to skip the listening first and just consolidate it. Shift Option 3. Consolidates it. And now all of our drum hits should be perfectly on the grid. Now sometimes, Here's a perfect example right here. Sometimes it doesn't quite get it right. As you can see, most of these are right on the grid, but this one's just a little bit off. So there are some spots where you may have to go in and just sort of like manually edit the clip and just sort of manually quantize it to the grid. If you really want to be that that OCD about it, you don't necessarily have to. You can sort of let that be like a natural ebb and flow to the song if you want. Just have some notes that are slightly off the grid just to give it more of a human feel. But let's listen to this from the drum fill here and see what it sounds like. I can definitely hear some minor artifacting in there, but it's a lot better than what rhythmic mode would have done for us with Elastic Audio. Let's listen to it one more time with the guitar in there and see if this sounds a little tighter. Cool. Yeah, I mean, it sounds a lot better. It sounds a lot more in time. The only downside is there was a couple spots in there where I definitely heard like the hi-hat getting split at the wrong point, and then it sounds like the hi-hat is glitching. So again, there are going to be some artifacts in there you have to take care of manually. Really, all you have to do is just solo out the drums, listen to the drums straight through after you're done doing this, and go and copy and paste other things in its place where the artifacts are, or try to find a way to clean it up. So like I said, it takes more time, I think, to do than rhythmic, but I think in the end, as long as you are very critical about what you're hearing and you're critical about what you're editing, this will end up turning out better with less artifacting than Elastic Audio. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.